So as always, we shall start with the dollar. So not a lot has developed. Not a lot has developed since we last spoke. We did have NFP, which did open up the floodgates to the downside, and we did see a really aggressive bearish move. However, we didn't really do anything. We didn't break structure. We didn't break out of this range. And your price is still trapped within the highs and within the lows. So there has been no progress in that situation. Therefore, I'm kind of still neutral on the dollar, and at the moment, price is testing the low, still rebounding. If we do successfully retest this area, we could very much see a continuation back to the highs this week, and we could be looking at a bullish dollar only just to get us back to resistance. So with USD, if we can break through the floor, if we can see some downside through the lows here, that will then allow me to be bearish on USD with the expectation that we are going to continue lower and possibly head back to these lows around 96.4. And then the plan will be some pullback opportunities and looking for continuations back into the prior low. And that's where I'm really interested to see if USD can make the move this week. If we are going to see some weakness for the dollar, if we are going to break support, break out of this range and actually start to see a bit of a trend continue. But on the other hand, there is, of course, very much a possibility we just continue the range and bounce to the upside. So the plan very much is monitor what price does this week at support. At the moment, we have had a bit of a bearish move into the low, but at the moment, price is rejecting pretty well. We'll see how this does develop through the rest of today and pretty much the rest of the week. And if we do maintain support, then yeah, buys look good. Perhaps some sells on euro dollar, sells on maybe Aussie dollar look good. If we can break through the floor, then we'll speak more about the selling opportunities. But for now, at support, difficult to tell. Jumping over to EURUSD, pretty much the same situation there as well. You've got the equal highs running through the market. Price again struggling to clear the highs and get that direction. Equal lows there, which price has been bouncing on very, very well. And as you can see this week, another up move back into resistance. Can price find resistance here, or do we break to the upside? If we do get the breakout, then this becomes my target back to the swing high and onwards and upwards from then onwards. And of course, if we do break through the low, then I'm looking at push back to the swing low at 1.139. So either which way, there is a plan at play or in place for dollar, depending which way we do break out. At the moment, still trapped within the range. Price is back at the high. If you're looking for shorting opportunities, now is the place for it. If we can see a significant reaction there, we'll see how this candle does close. Still does have about 44 minutes before it does close. But let's say if we do close with some strength, that could be a nice short on the hourly. Stops above the high and simply looking to try and catch the swing back to the low of the range or back to some of these areas at least. So again, all eyes really on this area corresponding to what the DXY is doing, and now I help kind of shape my bias for the week. In terms of pound USD, still trapped within the range, so it's not my favorite pair at the moment. I do think there is a lot of potential with these USD pairs when they do eventually break out, but we did bounce off a very nice level of support on the daily chart, which we did really, really well to do. Price came back into the lows, nice wicks, but all we're doing is just moving back and forth between this range. So in terms of direction, it's just not clear right now. If you're looking to take advantage of price, respecting key levels, looking to buy low, sell high, catch reactions, you can find some nice opportunities here for pound, as we saw last week with this reaction at the low, a few weeks ago at the reaction of the high there as well. If price does make its way back to resistance, struggle at the highs again, there could of course be another selling opportunity. So keep an eye on those opportunities, especially if you're on the lower time frame, just looking for kind of intraday positions. In terms of direction, as I've been saying, looking for this before I do set a bias, an expectation for pound USD. Whilst we're in this area, all I'm expecting is fluctuation back and forth, not trying to be too judgmental on the price action. I do have the feeling that we are likely to break higher. I am looking at this as a big inverse head and shoulder pattern. So there's your left head and right shoulder. Of course, that's your neckline. And I also like the way we've had this really aggressive sell-off, but all of that's kind of flipped and price is now seeing some strength. So it's like price did try to break to the downside, but essentially failed. And if you do see a confident break to the upside, I am expecting us just to return back to highs at 1.378. So I do somewhat have a bullish expectation for pound USD. But again, I'm not going to jump into anything until I see price actually show some conviction to the upside, which is basically the break of the high. Dollar CAD, I actually quite like the shorts. I'm very bearish on dollar CAD. I've spoken a lot about where we're trading on the higher time frames. If I scoot to the weekly chart, you can see where we're trading major resistance once, almost twice, a third time, a fourth time, and potentially a fifth over there as well. So a very significant level of resistance in the market. I do feel like we can see a lot of downside from that area. And if that is the case, I would expect at least a push into the lows here. And maybe best case scenario, you see a push all the way to this low at 1.324. Of course, that's more of a longer term bias, but definitely a possibility. But I really like how we're firing a lot of wicks to the highs here, really struggling to maintain that bullish momentum. Overall, it's been a really corrective move to the upside as well. It looks like we're kind of pulling back into supply to the left there, and perhaps we can see a continuation, and that bearish momentum does continue. So I can see dollar CAD continuing lower. This is definitely a pair on my watch list, and I'm keeping a close eye for selling opportunities. I like where we're trading as well, back into this level of supply. I didn't like this wick here that price did print on NFP. Price tried to sell off, had aggressive move lower, but quickly ripped to the upside and of course printed that wick there. So that's a bit of a concern. We've tried to move lower from that same zone, but failed pretty spectacularly. So now we're going to see what price can do again. We're there again, a second attempt. Maybe price might consolidate a little bit. Maybe more momentum might pick up. So potentially the opportunity could improve. But if this area doesn't hold, then I will be looking for a push back to the high at 1.391 and then look for some selling opportunities at that level as well. So if this doesn't hold, that's my area of interest. But the plan for this week is a push lower and a push back to support there. As I said, we could go a lot further. So why I like dollar CAD is because of the risk reward potential, but the opportunity looks really good at that zone. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that. Probably my favored USD pair at the moment, dollar CAD. Aussie dollar showing some strength as well. Looks like we are breaking through resistance here, so that is pretty significant. And because we're breaking through resistance there, this becomes our next target. A push back to the swing high at 0.662. As price breaks through that level, that of course is our next significant level in the market. So that's where I do see price heading towards. I also spoke about on the weekly chart how we're firing a lot of wicks to the downside. It looks like we've tried numerous times to fall over and see price continue lower, but essentially it's failed. Price has found a lot of support in this area, and as a result, we're seeing a lot of wicks stabbing to the downside, basically showing price is finding support here. And now it looks like slowly momentum is picked up to the upside, and a push to the swing high is now looking the most likely move. So perhaps intraday, there could be some nice pullback opportunities for Aussie dollar on the way up. I'm not really seeing much of a swing trade here, especially with the room. Not enough room to maneuver with. But intraday, if we can see that momentum continue, perhaps some pullbacks do look good. Maybe even the retest of that level and some buys back into resistance. And then perhaps some sells when we get there if we do see some adequate rejection. But yeah, Aussie dollar looking strong. I do think we can push higher. New Zealand dollar, likewise as well. Looks like we're starting to push to the upside. We are threatening that bearish descending channel. So if I map in the lower highs here as well, we are seeing some strength into the high of the channel this morning. Is this price potentially respecting it to come back down, or is this price potentially getting ready for a breakout? We'll have to wait and see. We just saw a strong candle close. The next 2, 3, 4, 5 candles will kind of paint the picture for us. But we are still respecting the channel. We are still coming back to area of supply. So until we see a confident breakout like we're seeing with Aussie dollar, I wouldn't jump into anything, at least for buys anyway, but even for sells, because we're not seeing any rejection just yet. But let's say if we do see a strong candle break in the highs like this, then of course that would be a pretty strong bullish signal. At that point, looking for pullbacks and more upside. Again, intraday long opportunities, similar to what we spoke about with Aussie, I think will look really good with New Zealand dollar as well. And then on the flip side, if we do show a lot of rejection here, fire a lot of wicks, see bearish momentum pick up, this could be a great place for a short, and you could be in for a very nice swing back to lows if the channel of course, is going to continue. So a very decisive area price is trading right now for New Zealand dollar. Like I said, the next 2, 3, 4, 5 candles will help paint the picture. So that's really what the focus will be. And depending which way we're breaking, we'll know with a bit more confidence where the next move could take us. As for gold, gold's been very bullish. We've seen a lot of upside for gold. And again, this morning, more strength coming into the market. I spoke about this area as a nice place for a buy. I still stand by it. I think that's still a great place for a buy as well. But since we are seeing some strength again this morning, you probably want to shift your focus to this area at 35.95, just below 3600. And again, this is more for intraday opportunities because, of course, gold right now is just very, very bullish. We're seeing a lot of momentum. I wouldn't want to be looking to short gold. Yes, it's overextended. At some point, we are going to put that high in and see some downside, but difficult to anticipate that high, especially in these conditions. So if you're on the lower time frames, what you could do is probably even like 50-minute chart, I would say, looking for some pullbacks into these zones. And as long as things look good, there could be some nice buys back into the high, maybe a bit further as well. You could just trail stop, see how far you could take it. But yeah, gold really crushing it, seeing a lot of momentum, high after high after high. We smashed through 3600, so the next big psychological level will be 3650, more or less over there, and then you got 3700 up there. So those are the two next big targets. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be selling gold. Only thing looking to buy. We spoke about this area. If we do see a slightly bigger pullback, that area still is valid, but we've just created a new area to focus on, and I'll keep an eye on that as well, especially for intraday longs. And silver, I believe, is doing something similar as well, still seeing strength. Yeah, but we're kind of stuck in a consolidation here, so I wouldn't get too excited with silver just yet. I do think there's more upside to follow with silver, but I would suggest to wait for a strong breakout, a candle clearing the highs. That will show us, okay, the buyers are back in control, and perhaps, again, intraday pullbacks will be looking really good. Perhaps the retest and a continuation. Yeah. Because again, these markets are overextended, so you don't want to kind of get too carried away with the buys. A bigger pullback will happen at some point, and you don't want to jump into the wrong side of that. But if we do see strength clearing the highs again, well, that's a strong sign to say the buyers are back in control, and yeah, more upside would look like the likely move. So gold and silver, very bullish still. Of course, gold showing a bit more strength, silver trapped in the range, so wait for the breakout.